In today's halacha, we're going to discuss various customs and laws that are relevant to this upcoming Shabbos, the famous Shabbos that is called Shabbos Shira, the Shabbos in which we read the song of Az Yashir, of when the Jewish people passed through the Yam Suf. It is the Chabad custom that upon the Chazan, the Balkere, reading from the Sefer Torah, the Shira of Az Yashir, the congregants stand up and remain standing throughout the entire reading of the Shira. So is written in Sefer Menhagim and Luach Kelu Chabad. It does not state in this instance that one must face towards the Sefer Torah, as it says regarding next week's parsha, the reading of Aseret HaDibros. However, this was the Rebbe's custom. In Kriyas HaTorah, by the final Aliyah of Shvi, and also by Matthew, we read the parsha of Amalek that's in the end of Beshalach. There's a dispute amongst Peskim in whether one should say the dialect as Zecher Amalek or Zecher Amalek, and therefore the accepted Chabad custom is, as recorded in the Kfeis HaShulchan and received from the Reb Shneur Zalman of Lublin, the Teiras Chesed, and the Rebbe corroborated this custom, is that we, in the parsha of Beshalach, the Balkere, both by Shvi and by Maftir, is to say first the word Zecher and then the word Zecher. The reason is because the last word said is really the main nusach. And by Beshalach, and of course Purim, in which this portion is read, the main nusach is Zecher. So first we say Zecher, and immediately afterwards we say Zecher. We don't repeat the whole pasuk with just that word, unlike other customs. This is based on the Sefer Beinei Yerushalayim, which is Meyuchos, to have been written by the Alter Rebbe, in which he states that the main nusach for Beshalach is Zecher, while the main nusach for Kiseitze is Zecher. And therefore we say Zecher the second time. An interesting statement recorded by the Kfeis HaShulchan in the name of the Teiras Chesed is that no matter how one says it, Zecher, the main thing is to blot them out properly. On this Shabbos it is a custom to eat buckwheat kashe, or in Hebrew called kusemet mistakenly, as kusemet is really spelled, buckwheat is not spelled. The bracha of buckwheat is hadama, and it can never become mezenis. The custom is to eat at Shabbos Shira. This custom is written in Sefer Menhagim and recorded also in Hayom Yom of the 17th of Tevis, and actually has a root in one of the great Poskim Achreinim called the Bach in chapter 208 in the Laws of Blessings writes that it is a custom on Shabbos Shira to eat whole grains. He doesn't mention buckwheat, but the idea of eating whole grains was a custom, as we see already mentioned in the times of the Bach. Regarding the source for this custom, so the source seemingly is because, as we will explain next, that it was a custom to feed the birds on Shabbos Shira, and a bird food is wheat, grains, including buckwheat, and therefore, since the birds love this food, we also eat it. So regarding feeding animals on Shabbos, it's written in Shulchan Aruch, chapter 3, 24/7, that it's forbidden to feed animals on Shabbos unless it is your personal pet, in which it's dependent on you for food. But a wild animal or a wild bird that lives off the outside is forbidden to be fed on Shabbos, even by a good, caring Samaritan. The question arises, does this apply likewise to Shabbos Shira, this prohibition? So the Magen Avram, and so records the Alter Rebbe in 324:8, rules that it does apply, and those that are accustomed to feed animals on Shabbos Shira are making a mistake, and they are not allowed to do so, being that these animals are not dependent on them for food. Nevertheless, there are poskim that do justify this custom. So is recorded with the Sefer Shabbos and as well as the Mincha Shabbos, that they defend the custom, stating that it's being done for the sake of a mitzvah, so it's allowed. What mitzvah is it? As we're repaying the birds for having sung Shira to Hashem during the time that we passed the Yam Suf, and we ourselves sang Shira. The Nemuka Erechaim states that this was the accepted custom of a Menachem Mendel Rivnov to give the birds crumbs on Shabbos Shira to reward them for eating the leftover man of Datan and Aviram that cunningly would leave it over into Shabbos night to make it appear that the man fell on Shabbos. And he goes ahead and defends this custom. Nevertheless, as the Rebbe concludes in Sichos, we have to follow the words and the ruling of the Alter Rebbe, and so is the custom of Rayat, not to feed the animals and birds on Shabbos Shira, as well as any Shabbos, However, the Rebbe adds that nevertheless one should emphasize to the children the idea of this, which is to be merciful to animals, as well as it is definitely not a problem for the children to set up the food from before Shabbos for the birds, and then be able to fulfill this custom according to all. It's brought down in Sefer Asichas Tavshin Beis. The Rebbe Rayat described how in the Maral, of which the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe Rayat, the Rebbe is a sign of their family, so the Maral would gather children on Shabbos Shira and teach them the story that occurred of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the Kriyas Yamsuf, and he would have them distribute food to animals. He would then bless the children that they should grow up to give nachas to their families and to their parents.